Hello and welcome back to another episode of Transport Fever 2. To start off this episode, we're going to come around to some of our lines and improve their efficiencies now that they've had some time to run. And the first thing I want to do is come back to this setup that we had, and instead of having two separate lines, one running from the quarry to the construction materials plant and then another one from the construction materials plant down to the port, we could turn this into one triangle where they pick up the stone, they drop it off over here, they pick up a load of bricks, and then they drop it off at the port. So this way we have a lot less trucks running empty for a lower amount of time, and overall this should improve the efficiency of everything in this area. So I think we'll just start here and grab this line, and then we'll manage it so it runs from the quarry to here, and then from here down to the port, but we have to do it in the right order. So we also need to drop it off at the truck stop and not the port. But now this should be good. I want to get rid of the other line first. So we're gonna, first of all, sell all these vehicles and then delete the line. And then hopefully we might be able to test it out with this vehicle here. It should just come right in and pick up construction materials. We'll speed this up and confirm with this one as well. That comes in, drops off the stone, and picks up the construction materials. So that's much better now. I'm not too sure why it was waiting there. Maybe it's spacing itself out, I'm not sure. But now what we can do is we can come back and add some more vehicles to this line. So I think we'll get a total of 25 running in this loop here. And overall this will just help us improve efficiency. We won't require as many vehicles as we did before, now that they're not running empty for half their trip. They're only really running empty for about a third of the trip. And there's also much more opportunities to make money per vehicle. So we'll let this run through and then we'll come back, and if we can quickly check. So this is what the finances look like right now on this line. We'll come back later and check in on it just to make sure that the changes we made are working. Next, what I want to do is come to each of our ship lines, and I think we could afford to get rid of one ship on each one. If we look here at some of the boats heading towards Jackson, a lot of them are only running half full. If we can find one over here, this one's also only really running half full. So I think we could afford to sell one ship per line, and we'll still be able to run pretty optimally like that. Another little tweak I want to do is add a truck for the construction materials line. We have 4 running here. I think 5 might help, just so we keep this number low enough that it doesn't completely fill this truck station, because if that happens then it won't be able to accept any food, and we want to leave as much space as possible for as many resources as we need coming in. Checking in on our bus line here, it seems like that's doing fine. We don't have a huge buildup at any particular station, so we'll just let that continue to run. And then lastly, checking over here at our food processing plant, if we click this, we can definitely see that we're shipping enough grain to the food processing plant, so I don't think we need any more horses coming from the farm here. Even though we do have some extra building up here, I don't think it's not required yet, as we're matching the required production rate. And as for our horse line heading up to Sacramento, we can see it's a pretty tough route for horses to take. Really any vehicle, this elevation change is pretty hard, but at the moment we don't really have a better option, and we'll just sort of have to wait until we get more powerful vehicles to be able to get up these steep slopes a lot quicker. So now what we want to develop in this episode, I think, is going to be a fuel line in this area ending here in San Jose. So we have an oil well here, right next door to 2 oil refineries. We even have another oil well pretty close right here. And then we have a fuel refinery sort of up the hill slightly, a little bit farther out. So how I think we're gonna handle this is by horse. We're going to ship it from this oil well to the oil refinery here, and then I think also by horse we'll go from the oil refinery up to the fuel refinery, and then lastly we'll bring it by train from the fuel refinery down into San Jose. So firstly, let's set up our roads so that they can handle this. And we definitely don't want to do a lot of terraforming, so we'll make a couple of different segments of roads so that they conform to the terrain, and then we can connect up like that. And let's just redo this intersection while we're here, since I'm thinking we'll probably make this line a loop if it's going to be all by horse. So we'll do an intersection here, and I think the best way to go about it would be to bring a road straight up from this intersection and landing somewhere in this area connecting to the road over there. So again, we'll bring this road through, keeping it in short segments so it conforms to the terrain and doesn't get terribly expensive. We can continue to bring it up the hill here, where we can finally have it connect up right there. That's not too far away from the fuel refinery, so we shouldn't really be losing much efficiency in terms of travel time between all these destinations. So now what I want to do is set up this oil well. We'll expand on it a tiny bit just to help it feel more enclosed with the truck stop. And then from there we'll head over to the oil refinery. We'll detail that up, add the truck stop. And then lastly we'll head up to the fuel refinery, where we'll set up our train station and everything that we want to do up here. So firstly, we added our truck station right in here. And so the next steps are placing down some of our cargo storage buildings. And for this one, I think we'll go with a bunch of small ones. We'll see how this ends up turning out for us. We might add one large one on this side, or maybe it seems like it's having collision issues, so we'll just leave this be. If we could fit a large one somewhere, maybe that would be nice. We might just have to stick it here, but that's okay. We'll cover this all up and make it look nicer as we begin to detail the area. So first I painted the area to have a lot more dirt. With this being an oil industry, it's probably not great for the immediate surrounding environment, so it makes sense that some of this would mostly be dirt, especially with probably industrial vehicles driving around everywhere. So next, we just need to place in some of the details and cover up our cargo buildings, and we'll come back to see what that looks like. And now here is our fully detailed oil well. We've expanded it a little bit, added some oil rigs over here, some larger ones back here, added a little storage area, and a few more buildings over this way. One thing I wish I could do is place fences. I haven't been able to find any good fence mods on the workshop. There's one, but according to comments it might be broken, and I don't really want to test that out on this save. So if anyone knows any good fences, please let me know down in the comments, but for now I think we're going to leave this oil well here. So next we can head over to our oil refinery and begin to set up this area. So firstly, we're going to plop down this truck station right across the street, like so. I believe that's lined up. We'll come in here with our terrain tool, we'll flatten out just a little bit of the area around it, and we'll smooth it out. Hopefully not using too much of our money, as terraforming is pretty expensive. So I think this leaves us with a good base. We'll add some large cargo buildings on this side, and then we'll go through, detail this up. We won't do quite as much detail because the oil refinery is largely just buildings, but we will do a little bit here just so it looks a little more natural. And then once we're done with that, we can head up to our fuel refinery and get that one going. And this is what our oil refinery looks like. Again, not too much detail, just something quick. It doesn't really need it yet. Maybe if it becomes a larger part of our transportation network, we can do it up a bit more, but I think this works fine for now. So now finally we're up here with our fuel refinery, and so we're gonna have to set up a truck station as well as a train station so we can get both things running through here. So first we'll set up our truck station. We'll get this as close to the road as possible so we're not moving or terraforming so much. We'll place that down right about there. And then as for our train station, I think we'll set this one up right along here. We're going to want to make sure it's lined up with the road as best as possible. I think maybe this orientation works best. We might upgrade it to 2, just so we can line it up right along the edge of the industry here. Or maybe we'll actually give it a little bit of space. The cost difference is actually better a little bit farther away, so we'll do that. It gives us some space. We can have a little transition area here. Maybe we have a bunch of fuel waiting and some other things. But now we're set up to complete this truck loop, and all we have to do is add some small details here, set up our station in San Jose, and we should be good to let this run then. So here's our fuel refinery. We put a lot of storage alongside the cargo train station, and we added a building over here. And I think this default storage building looks pretty good as is, so we're just leaving that right where it is. I think the last thing we'll do is maybe just add some tanks over here. So if we can find the one for fuel, we'll just come through and place down a couple of these tanks just so it seems like we have a good bit extra waiting over here. One more and I think we'll be good. So there we go. This is sort of what it looks like at the moment. Later on, once this upgrades, we can come back through and add some more. But for now, we gotta move on and get our cargo station set up over here in San Jose. So to do this, we're going to just build a road sort of straight out from here. And we're gonna wanna rotate this in a way where it doesn't destroy the landscape too much. I didn't realize how hilly this area was, so that's going to prove to be an expensive fix unless we can find a better opportunity somewhere else. Maybe over here wouldn't be too bad, or we could even just incorporate it into the industrial area over in this way. And I think that's what we're gonna do. So we'll just have to delete this road, come back here, grab our train station, and we'll line this up pretty close to coming straight off of the road here. And we'll just place it down like so. And clicking on it, it does cover pretty much every area that needs fuel at the moment. And so all we have to do is smooth out this terrain a tiny bit, and we should be good to get our train track running through here. So now we have our train station set up here in San Jose. All that's left to do is set up the track, and we'll be able to get vehicles rolling pretty soon. So let's come in here, grab our tracks, and I think we'll want this coming out of this side of the station. We'll have it come straight out for a little bit, and then we'll begin to curve around. And one thing that we definitely need to focus on is getting uphill as soon as possible, since we do have a little bit of an elevation change. So we are gonna have to build up there. We don't want to build that in short segments because we don't really want our trains going up and down on short segments of track. We'll want to keep this going up as steadily as possible. It might actually be a little more efficient to work our way down. So if we start up here, we can begin to work our way down this hill and hopefully connect up right about where we left off. So we'll do this, and then we'll just sort of follow the hill all the way down. And it looks like we start to reach some issues over here once it gets pretty steep. It seems like it's a little too steep to make this connection anyway. So this seems like it's going to be a little tricky to get just right, so we'll come back once I figure out how we're gonna do this elevation change and connect up nicely over here. So after a little bit of messing around, we did have to end up moving our train station. It was just a bit too much to try to get it to fit over here. We would have had to either do a weird loop back around or have a bridge, which is way too expensive at this point in the game. So this train station over here connects us right up into the base of this hill, so we get a nice slope all the way down between the fuel refinery and San Jose. So unfortunately, this does mean that we are going to have one more step in this long chain of moving resources. So we'll have a truck stop there, and then one more just sort of in the heart of the fuel area in the city. So all that's left to do now is get vehicles running, and we should be good to go. Hopefully we have the money to get everything up and running, because we're only making a very slim margin of money right now, as most of our stuff is only getting moved by horses or boats over long distances. So firstly, we'll come in here and place down our train depot, and we'll try to line this up with the platform. We'll place that in just like that, and then we'll just slide the track right in wherever it'll fit. And we're gonna leave this as a single track for now, because we're only gonna have one train running here, and doing 2 tracks is pretty expensive, because that would also mean multiple trains, so we're just not gonna do that at the moment. So next, let's get our lines running. I don't think we've really unlocked any extra horses. They're all the same at this point, so we'll continue going with these American horse-drawn carriages. We'll get 12 horses to bring oil from the oil refinery, or from the oil well over to the oil refinery. But actually, what I forgot we were doing is a loop. So we aren't going to need more than one line, so we'll just come in here, manage this line, and then from the fuel refinery or oil refinery, we'll come up to the fuel refinery, and then from there our horses will come back down to the oil well. So because of that, we are gonna have to get some more vehicles, and we'll just start by doubling the amount we have here, and we'll see how that goes. Now the only issue we'll have is the oil refinery takes 2 crude oil to create 1 oil, so vehicles we have running up to the oil refinery or the fuel refinery will be carrying about half as much as they'd carry from here, which obviously isn't a good thing. So we'll let this run for now, because we did just spend a lot of money buying these vehicles, but once everything's up and running and we know we're in a stable place, we'll come through and we'll separate these lines. So we did have to let this run for a little bit to build some money back up, but I think we're ready to build our train. So we'll come in here, and because we're running up a steep hill, I think what we're going to value most is power over everything else. So it looks like we're going to have to go with one of these newer trains, and I think it might have to be this Russian class GV. We'll build something out real quick and see if it financially makes sense. So power wise, I think we definitely are going to need a powerful train, because even with 4 cars it wouldn't reach top speed. Same with this one. Maybe if we check this one, no, this one's still not getting there. So we are gonna maybe go with this train. We are gonna have to wait just a little bit more to build up enough money. So we'll let that run, and then we'll come back once we're ready. So we've got some money now. We're gonna purchase this new line and have it come from the oil refinery all the way down to San Jose. So now we can come here and watch it come out of the train depot. There's our very nice train. Very short. I'm not used to seeing these short trains after coming off of the long playthrough that we just finished up. But hopefully it'll get up to speed in no time, and hopefully it'll start making a profit. Now we do have just one more tiny leg that we have to complete, and that's just this tiny freight loop here in San Jose to get the oil, the fuel from the cargo platform over to where it's needed in the city. So while we wait for our line to go through and get more established, I didn't realize that our horses would struggle this much up this hill here. I didn't think it was that steep, which is a little unfortunate, but it does seem that there are flat parts where they can start to get up to full speed again, so hopefully too much time isn't lost in this little area. And now here comes our train into the station to pick up an almost full load of fuel. So this will be a good test to see how much we'll be getting per trip. Compared to these horses, this train is moving so much faster. The speed difference when I speed it up is pretty crazy once it gets up to full speed, but in just a very short amount of time, this will pull up into San Jose, and we'll see how much money we get off of one sort of half full trip. And here it is into the station. We get about 128,000 from a half full load, so that'll probably get us up to about 300,000 per trip when it's finally running full. Now, as I said before, I want to split up this line into two separate lines, since the oil refinery takes 2 crude, so we don't want to waste efficiency by having our horses move half full up to the fuel refinery. So first we'll come in here and we'll manage this line, and I think this one we'll leave as the one that goes from the oil refinery up to the fuel refinery, since this already has a bunch of horses. And then as for the other line, we'll come here and we'll start out with 12 horses running from the oil well to the oil refinery. And then we'll just split up these terminals to make sure they won't get backed up, and we'll let this run and see how efficiently it runs after a few cycles. However, while we're letting that happen, let's just come around to some other lines we have around here and check to see how they're doing. This line that we fixed, you can see right when we made the change to turn this into a loop instead of 2 separate lines, we've pretty much doubled the money we're making from this line while only slightly increasing the running costs just due to a few more vehicles. So that seems to be running pretty well. Our port here is holding a good amount of construction materials, which is good considering this one's full and this one's on its way back. Coming back to the Jackson port, we have run out of space to pretty much store anything else, so if we get a full load of food, it'll pretty much just get wasted, because these platforms, if we look here, can only hold 60 at a time, while these boats hold 70. So I don't think we're necessarily getting full loads of food at the moment, but we do want to keep this pretty clear, so I think we'll come in and add another vehicle on this line. We don't want to overdo it, because then we'll have our vehicles running sort of half empty for most of their trips. So just making sure that they'll always have a full load waiting for them while still leaving space in the station is sort of the perfect balance that we want. And then lastly, looking over here, it seems like everything's doing just fine. We have food waiting here at this port. That's going to get picked up soon. It'll probably be a little over half full when it gets here. We are clearing out this truck station, so that's good. And we can see here, we're still meeting the production requirements. for this food processing plant. Alright, so I think that's pretty much where we're going to leave it in this episode. So, if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions or feedback, leave a comment below. Thanks for watching, and have a great day.